Today's topic is one of our core values, and we've been talking about our core values here for the last several weeks. And you know, core values are only as good as you embody them. And so what we know about all intentions or all ideals is that sometimes the creative process of pulling them forward and generating them and identifying them can be the best time for those principles. And then after that, sometimes they fall away from disuse. They don't get, they're not put into action. And so it's really important as a spiritual community, obviously, is that not only that we have core values that really sort of set the guidelines for how we show up and our highest intention for how we are in our operations and how we are with each other, but it's important that we keep reminding ourselves of them. And it's kind of like when you first learn to bowl, and when you're a little kid, you know, and they put those rails up. No, does anyone bowl in Santa Barbara? I don't know. I come from the Midwest where people bowled all the time because it was cold. But they have the rails there, and it sort of keeps you, you know, going down your intended path. Let's just say that, and you can't go too far off the path. And your values can be sort of like that. They can be sort of like the guardrails to keep us, going down, proceeding according to our highest intentions. And because we know what happens is it's easy for us if we go into our default mode, which is, you know, who we're not who we were created to be, but who we came to believe we were somewhere along the line in our life, and then we can our values can go to the wayside and we can drop into the gutter, so to speak, and we don't want to do that individually or collectively. So values are important, and we've been talking about the other ones, and today the value is abundance, and we have a statement that goes with that, and it says, we celebrate and are grateful for the presence of overflowing goodness in all areas of our lives. We celebrate and are grateful for the presence of overflowing goodness in all areas of our lives. And this is just a wonderful, very high teaching, and so is the song, All Things Bright and Beautiful. But is that how we experience life? Get up in the morning and go, everything is bright and beautiful, and goodness is happening in my life, and, just like, it's great, it's wonderful. It would be great if we did, but that sounds like a musical that I attended. You know what I'm saying? And life, it has its ups and downs, and it's easy for us to get into the funk, about life. It's easy for us to not experience the goodness and see the badness in life, for example, and in other people. And so when we think about these principles, if we don't have an understanding of sort of all of the sort of vectors of influencing on our consciousness, then we can easily discard these values and say, oh, they're just unrealistic, It's just unrealistic. Abundance, well, that's not true, unless I have enough. And then you start to decide for yourself what enough is. And there's a part of you and I that has a bottomless pit. Do you understand that one? Where it doesn't matter how much you pour into it, that the well never fills up, right? Do we know this? In the Buddhist teachings, they talk about the hungry ghost, which is this character that has an enormous belly and this tiny little mouth. And it doesn't matter how much the ghost eats, it never, ever fills up. And we have that part of us that feels insufficient, the part of us that feels that I need more. And there's a storyline that goes with this, and I think you know this storyline. It's like, well, yeah, but if I had this, I wouldn't feel that way anymore. That some sort of amorphous, unspecific, essentially moving target of more would satisfy this sense of not enough. And that's somehow we're propelled in life to constantly be seeking and trying to get that insufficiency, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's in the material world or whether it's someone else, noticing us or approving us or any number of ways in which you and I experience insufficiency. And so the problem with that is that it's not the quantity of what we have that determines our sense of enough. Because have you ever noticed, now not you, but people that you know in your life, that have some quantity and then they get more, And then they're still telling the same story that they were when they had the lesser amount of that, whatever that was. And that never goes away. And this has happened in my life too. I can remember a time in my life when I was making very little money, and that felt like not enough. And then I got a raise, and it wasn't a very long period of time before it wasn't enough again. And then I got another raise, and then I got a promotion and this and that. And there was always this sense, I just need more. Do you understand this? Is this just me? No. Oh, okay, good. So this sense of not enough seems to be endemic. It seems to be in the psyche of the human being. And when that story is running, it really doesn't matter how much you have, because not enough will be the experience that will flavor whatever you have. Does this make sense? Because that's going to trump, and I'm not using that word to disrespect our president, but that is that particular mindset is going to edge out, shall we say, any other thoughts of how much is enough for us, and insufficiency then becomes the norm. So when I want to talk to you today about abundance, it's not about getting more stuff. So it's okay to get more stuff, but it's really okay when we first have our mind and our heart in the right place, because then how we are being with what we're having is going to determine our sense of abundance or our sense of enough. And so when my sense of enough is how I'm being with it, it's like what I have, not what I still need to get. When my relationship with what I have is enough, because I'm coming from enough, then I can really carry on this consciousness of plenty. And when I carry on a consciousness of plenty, or just being grateful for my life and just seeing what I have and blessing it and seeing it as being this is my sufficiency, this is what is, then that's the energy that goes forward into life in the universe. And that then produces after its kind. That then becomes the magnet to draw more into our life. But the other side is the reverse of that is true also. So if it's never enough, or it's never right, or it's never good enough, then the universe responds in that way too, and keeps bringing you more evidence of what you believe to be true about them or about you. You understand what I'm saying? This is very hard to accept, because we still want to hold out to this idea that it's all about some external notion, that abundance is really about some certain amount of something. Now, I'm not sitting here saying and disregarding the idea that some people have some very legitimate needs. I'm not saying that those needs are not legitimate or that we should ignore them. But what I'm saying is that the spiritual work is to come into a relationship with what we have first, and to be with what we have in a way that is a blessing of what we have, and that's a consciousness of enough. And still recognizing that more could be used, and more could be useful, and more would maybe even sometimes be part of our survival even. But when we're coming from I'm not enough, which is the pervading shadow belief that most of us have, and then we bring that into, that becomes the context for how we are with what we have, then typically it's never enough. And that is the pervading consciousness in our planet, is it not? Can you think of any war that was not fought over some sense of not enough? I mean, I just can't. I mean, this has huge implications for our world. And I said, I think in the first service, is that these values that we hold here, these are not just so that we can fix our life, or that our lives work better. This is really about raising the consciousness that we know is possible within ourselves, and then like it says in the peace song, let it begin with me. And if I can demonstrate this in my own life, then I am evidence to what can be. And I become a living example, and it becomes someone that can be an inspiration to other people who are still living in the false belief that they're not enough. And we're here to reverse the world's opinion, or the psychological damage that was done earlier in our life when we were given messages saying that we needed to be something other than what we were to be okay and to be accepted and to be loved and to be enough. Because the truth is, you're God made, and you're God-made, you're more than enough. That's who you are. That's what we're here to remember. Not to make true, but to remember, because we already are that. And when I'm coming from a recognition that I am enough, then what I have becomes my abundance. What I have, not what's coming later. You think I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to me. Do you understand what I'm saying? This has pervaded my life in a lot of ways. But I've made progress in the last couple of years, and the most reason that I've made progress is not because I've heard someone say over and over again, you're enough, you're a child of God, you are whole and free. Not because of that, but because of the work that I've done on the other side of this consciousness, working with the shadow belief and uncovering the shadow belief and integrating that. And that's the opportunity that all of us have, is that we don't have to continue to believe what's not true about us. Well, there's something we can do about that. We can. First thing is we become aware of it. That's the first step in any healing, right? Become aware that I have this voice, or I have this track that plays in my head that's really flavoring my experience of life. Because the lens through which I see life colors my world. The world isn't a objective thing. The world is subject to my perception of it. And how I perceive life is determined by how I see, not by what I see. So if I'm coming from that place in me that feels that life is against me, or I'm not enough, or I'm lacking in some way, then the tables could be full. The whole buffet table of everything could be laid in front of me, and I would still be going, yeah, but there's no guacamole, or there's something missing. There's something missing. There's something missing is not based upon what we see. It's how we see. And so this is an important teaching for us, and it's not just an important teaching for us individually, but it is for our community, because our community struggles with its own version of not enough, right? Because if whatever is going to be true for the individual is going to have implications for the collective. So as each one of us grow up, not just wake up, but grow up into this emotional maturity that lets us know that we don't have to believe what's not true, that false self, then that sense of enoughness can pervade the community. And then people can walk in here on a Sunday morning and can feel abundance. They can experience people who are feeling just very good about themselves and very whole and complete and sensing that there is enough. And that can transform the consciousness, yeah? So we're here to do this work that, begins with us, but it has profound implications for our world. And that's why it's so exciting. So I want to give you just a brief a couple of things from what Jesus said about prosperity that I think really parallel this idea of how you are being with what you're having. He said, when you pray believing that you have received, and it will be yours. Pray believing that you have received. And the egoic notion is praying for something to happen. That when you're praying for something to happen. You're not praying for the consciousness of what you've already received. And that's the enlightened perspective. That's how abundance begins to manifest as a reality of our being, is when we pray, not praying for that which is yet to come, but that which already is. Does this make any sense? That we're here really to claim the truth that the kingdom of God is at hand, that the Father's good pleasure to have given you the kingdom of God, not on a day to come. That the treasure is already here, and the abundance that comes with it. He also said, for those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. For those who have, does this mean the rich will get richer? No, that's not what that means. For those who have what? Have this understanding of this consciousness of abundance. It's those who have the consciousness of abundance will experience more abundance. And sufficiency begets sufficiency. And not enough begets more if not enough. You know, the universe is no respecter of what choices that you make, nor the energy that you put out. It will give you whatever you say. And as Jesus said, you cannot serve two masters. You're either going to serve the master, I am enough, or you're going to serve the master, I am not enough. And whichever master you serve will be do your bidding. And the bidding will be the experience, because we get what comes back comes back to us what we put out. It can be no other way. It's the spiritual law of the universe. And that's what we believe Jesus came to remind us of. That God is not some distant wish fulfiller, some Santa Claus out there that's going to, you pray for this and God's going to give you that, and pray for this. That we have to take our role in the acknowledgement of who we are and who we were created to be, and we need to take on that we're created in the image and likeness of God, and there is nothing missing in your divine nature. There is no insufficiency. And any claim of insufficiency is based on error thinking, not truth. The truth is that I am God-made, and you are God-made. And you are more than enough. It can be no other way. But what we come to believe becomes our reality. And as you and I, somewhere along the line, came to believe that we were less than enough. But that can be changed. That's the good news. We're not stuck believing what's not true about us. The truth is something we can't change. But that's all good. And that's that you are enough. So we just need to get out of the way, get what's not true about us out of the way, and what will remain will be the awareness, the emerging awareness of our wholeness, of our fullness, of how much we are loved, how valuable we are, how precious we are, how we are deserving of this beautiful blessing of life. And there is no lack in God, and there is no lack in us. So there's a little of instruction that comes from the story of the feeding of the 5,000, which is definitely a story of abundance. And if we follow the steps of how this unfolded, we see a step-by-step approach for us to understand of how we can move into this consciousness of abundance. So, the story is that all these people had gathered around to hear Jesus, and there was the people were getting hungry. And as you may be right now. So I'll ask the volunteers to bring up 5 loaves and 2, no, I'm just kidding. And so Jesus asked the question. So here's how we were saying that what's important is not focusing on what you want, which could be like, we have like 5,000 salads, on short notice, but focusing on what you have, So Jesus asked the question, what do you got? What do we have? What do we have? Let's take an inventory of what is the reality of this present moment. What do I got? The same thing with remember the widow's oil. I don't have enough oil, and what have you got? Well, I've just got this. Okay, so start with that. What should you start with? Right. And when should you start? Right. So you start now with what you have. So that's the beginning. So okay, what do we got? So 5 loaves, 2 fishes. Okay, great. So now you're looking at 5,000 people, and you got 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Your thoughts might go to not enough, right? Except if you're Jesus. You don't have that problem. You've worked that one out already. So you do this. You look up. And so you're looking above the appearance. The appearance is there's not enough. And you look up. You look up because there's a greater truth than what's representing here materially, factually. And that is the infinite supply of God, right? So Jesus, he's probably pretty good without looking up, but he gives us some instruction. He looks up. And he gives thanks. See? He gives thanks for what he has. And he's also, doesn't say it, but I think he's giving thanks because he knows that there's no lack in the universe. He's knowing that truth. There's never a lack. And so he's blessing. He's blessing what he has. He's looking beyond the appearances of what he has, and he's giving thanks. And then the last instruction is share. Give. Give what you have. See, doesn't that feel abundant to you? I mean, think about that versus, oh my God, I got bills to pay, and I don't have enough, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And, And this notion that if we are going to use spiritual principles, and we have to use them in this very, very specific way if we are ever going to work against the prevailing sense that there's not enough. And we're going to do it with consciousness. We're going to do it with principles. We're not going to do it with some, moving target of there being enough. There's never going to be enough for that part of you that always sees lack. Does that make sense? And you'll be seduced into thinking, yes, there is an amount. And I used to think a certain amount of money and a certain amount of this. It's never enough. In other words, the part of you that believes that there's not enough, it is very, survival is based upon that remaining true. Because if the day ever came when that part of you that thought there wasn't enough were actually to receive enough, that part of you would die. And they don't want to die. So we have to just kind of go, thank you for sharing, but I know a higher truth. And so I'm going to see what I have, I'm going to bless it, and I'm going to know that what I am made of and what God made is enough. And that's who I am. And I'm going to bring I am enough to this situation so that any appearance out there of not enough does not trigger into the sense that I am not enough. Because if I feel that I'm enough, then I can deal with all kinds of things. Have you noticed that? When you're feeling strong in yourself, when you're feeling confident in yourself, when you're loving yourself, and life comes with its dips and doozies and troubles and challenges and difficulties, and you can just be with it in a whole different way. You can say, yeah, that's difficult, but you're not diminished. You don't get hooked into I'm not enough. You get an opportunity to say, I am enough, and I'm going to be with what this is, and I'm going to bless it, and I'm going to be grateful for it, and I'm going to share what I can share. I think if we live this way, I think we would heal that part of ourselves, and that's what I'm here for. Anyone else? Anyone else here for their sense of not enough? Yay, we're all here for that. Your hands are not up, but I know you came for that.